Team 35 of 52 teams of 8. Help make America wiser and kinder with antique rival wisdom team quotes that have passed the test of time to make humanity great with words of wisdom to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Give your kids free Easy Extra Advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom Workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. Free Easy Alpha Cypher coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 35.1. Subtlety may deceive you. Integrity never will. Oliver Cromwell, 1599 to 1658. Let me analyze this stark quote from Oliver Cromwell, the controversial English military and political leader. The quote reflects Cromwell's uncompromising Puritan worldview and his experiences in both military and political leadership. 1. The contrast between subtlety and integrity is telling. Subtlety implies diplomatic maneuvering, clever rhetoric, and hidden motives. Integrity represents directness, honesty, and transparent dealing. The choice of deceive suggests subtlety is not just complex, but potentially harmful. 2. As a military commander and political figure, Cromwell learned that complex political machinations often lead to unexpected consequences. Direct action, while sometimes harsh, leaves no room for misunderstanding. Clear principles, even controversial ones, provide reliable guidance. 3. The statement reflects Cromwell's personal philosophy. Simple, straightforward dealing is more reliable than sophisticated scheming. Truth, however unpalatable, is preferable to artful deception. Moral clarity matters more than political expediency. Ironically, Cromwell's own legacy is complex and debated, particularly in Ireland where his actions were brutal, showing how even those who advocate for straightforward dealing can leave complicated historical footprints. Team quote 35.2. There is nothing like a dream to create a future. Victor Hugo, 1802 to 1885. Let me explore this inspiring quote from Victor Hugo, which appears in Les Miserables and reflects one of his central philosophical beliefs. 1. The transformative power of dreams. Dreams serve as blueprints for what could be. Imagination precedes and enables real change. Vision is the first step toward manifestation. Without the ability to envision something better, change remains impossible. 2. The creative force of aspiration. Dreams generate the energy needed for action. They provide motivation through difficult times. Having a vision helps overcome present obstacles. Dreams shape reality by influencing our choices and actions. 3. The social implications Hugo saw. Personal dreams can drive societal progress. Individual vision can spark collective change. Literature and art can help people dream of better futures. Social reform begins with imagining alternatives. This perspective was central to Hugo's work as both a writer and social reformer. In Les Miserables, characters like Jean Valjean and Fantine are driven by their dreams, for redemption, for their child's future, for a more just society. Hugo believed that the ability to envision a better world was the first step toward creating it. Team quote 35.3. Bashfulness is an ornament to youth, but a reproach to old age. Aristotle, 384 BC, 322 BC. Let me analyze this nuanced observation from Aristotle, which reflects his views on character development across different life stages. 1. The age-dependent context is crucial. In youth, bashfulness suggests modesty and proper humility. It indicates an awareness of one's inexperience, shows appropriate respect for those with more knowledge, demonstrates social sensitivity and self-awareness. 2. The shift in meaning with age. What appears virtuous in youth becomes problematic in age. Bashfulness in elders suggests missed opportunities for growth. Implies a failure to develop necessary confidence and wisdom. Indicates incomplete personal development. 3. The deeper philosophical implications. Character traits aren't universally virtuous or flawed. Personal growth requires evolving beyond certain qualities. What protects us in youth can limit us in maturity. Different life stages demand different virtues. The word choice is particularly interesting. Ornament suggests something that enhances, but isn't essential. Reproach implies not just a flaw, but something deserving criticism. This contrast highlights how the same trait can shift from asset to liability. This reflects Aristotle's broader philosophy about the development of character and his belief that virtues must be cultivated appropriately according to one's stage in life. Team quote 35.4. Necessity never made a good bargain. Benjamin Franklin 1706 to 1790. Let me analyze this practical insight from Franklin, which reflects his understanding of both business and human nature. 1. The economic wisdom here is profound. When acting from desperate need, we lose bargaining power. Urgency often forces acceptance of unfavorable terms. Emergency purchases typically come at premium prices. Planning ahead preserves negotiating leverage. 2. The broader life lesson implies. Preparation prevents disadvantageous decisions. Crisis management is inherently costly. Freedom of choice requires forethought. Desperation compromises judgment. 3. Franklin's experience as a businessman taught him. The stronger position in negotiation belongs to those who can walk away. Patient buyers make better deals than rushed ones. Options create leverage. Timing affects value. This connects to many of Franklin's other maxims about prudence and planning, like, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. His experience as a printer, inventor, and diplomat showed him repeatedly how necessity could force people into poor agreements. The quote's enduring relevance speaks to fundamental truths about human transactions. Whether in business, relationships, or politics, those acting from necessity rarely get the best terms. Team quote 35.5. Even if you are on the right track, you will get run over if you just sit there. John Ray 1627 to 1705. Let me help you understand this insightful quote by breaking it down into its components and exploring its deeper meaning. First, let's address the attribution. While you've attributed this to John Ray, 1627 to 1705, a notable English naturalist, this quote is more commonly attributed to Will Rogers, an American humorist from the early 20th century. This kind of misattribution is actually quite common with popular quotations, and it's worth noting for accuracy. Now, let's analyze the metaphor and its meaning. The quote uses a railroad metaphor, which is particularly interesting as it combines two powerful ideas: being on the right track, making good choices, or heading in the right direction, and the danger of getting run over, failing despite having good positioning. The deeper meaning operates on several levels. The first level is about the relationship between potential and action. Being on the right track represents having good ideas, making correct choices, or being well-positioned for success. However, the quote warns that this advantageous position alone isn't enough. You must also take action. The second level addresses the dynamic nature of success. The train imagery cleverly illustrates how opportunities and time keep moving forward relentlessly. Just as a train follows its predetermined path, time and progress move in only one direction, and they wait for no one. The practical application of this wisdom extends to many areas of life. In business, having a great idea isn't enough. You must execute it before someone else does. In personal development, knowing what you should do isn't sufficient. You must actually do it. In career growth, having qualifications alone won't advance you. You need to actively pursue opportunities. The quote effectively teaches that positioning is only the beginning. It's the combination of being in the right place and taking decisive action that leads to success. The alternative, sitting there, represents complacency, procrastination, or passive behavior, which can lead to failure even when all other conditions are favorable. Team quote 35.6. All money is a matter of belief. Adam Smith 1723 to 1790. Let me help you understand this profound observation about the nature of money from Adam Smith, who is often considered the father of modern economics. His insight here captures a fundamental truth about currency that's both simple and deeply complex. To understand this quote fully, let's first consider what money actually is. At its most basic level, money is just pieces of paper, metal coins, or, in today's world, digital numbers in a computer. These things have no inherent value. You can't eat a dollar bill, build a house with it, or wear it for warmth. What makes money valuable is our collective agreement that it has value. Think about early human history. Before money, people traded directly, a sheep for some grain, or labor for food. This barter system had obvious limitations. Money emerged as a solution, but it worked only because everyone agreed to believe in its worth. This is what Smith is getting at. Money's value exists purely in our shared belief system. Let's consider some concrete examples to illustrate this principle. When Zimbabwe experienced hyperinflation in the late 2000s, their currency lost value so rapidly that a loaf of bread could cost billions of Zimbabwean dollars. The money didn't physically change. The same pieces of paper were still there, but people's belief in its value had eroded. Similarly, when you deposit money in a bank, what you really have is a belief that the numbers you see on your screen represent real value that you can claim later. The entire banking system operates on this shared trust. This concept becomes even more fascinating when we consider modern developments like cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, for instance, has value solely because people believe it does. There's no physical coin, no government backing, just collective belief in its worth. Smith's insight extends beyond just currency to encompass broader economic concepts. Stock markets rise and fall largely based on belief and confidence. Company valuations often reflect not just current assets, but beliefs about future potential. Even the credit system that powers much of our modern economy is fundamentally based on belief that debts will be repaid, that institutions will honor their obligations. Understanding this quote helps us grasp why economic crises often involve crises of confidence. When belief in a currency or financial system wavers, real economic consequences follow. This is why central banks and governments work so hard to maintain confidence in their currencies and financial systems. Team quote 35.7. To advise conceited people is like whistling against the wind. Thomas Hood 1799 to 1845. Let me help you understand this perceptive observation from Thomas Hood, a British poet and humorist known for both his serious and comic verses. His metaphor about advising conceited people captures a profound truth about human psychology and the challenges of communication. Let's first break down the metaphor itself. When you whistle against the wind, several things happen. The sound is blown back at you, your effort is wasted, and you might even end up with a face full of dust. The wind, being a powerful natural force, completely overwhelms your attempt to project sound in the opposite direction. This creates a vivid image of futility, trying to accomplish something while working against an overwhelming opposing force. Now, let's examine how this connects to advising conceited people. Conceit, or excessive pride in oneself, creates a similar opposing force in human interaction. A conceited person has built up strong mental barriers. They believe deeply in their own superiority and correctness. When you try to offer advice to such a person, your words, like the whistle in the wind, are fighting against this powerful psychological force. To understand this dynamic more deeply, consider what happens when we try to advise a conceited person. First, their pride acts as a defensive wall. Just as the wind pushes back against the whistle, their ego pushes back against any suggestion that they might need to change or improve. They might interpret advice as criticism or as a challenge to their self-image. Second, their self-perceived superiority creates a filter. Even if your advice manages to reach them, it often gets distorted or dismissed. They might think, "What could this person possibly teach me?" This is similar to how the wind not only blocks the whistle, but can also distort whatever sound makes it through. Third, there's often a backfire effect. Just as whistling against the wind might result in getting dust in your face, trying to advise a conceited person might actually reinforce their behavior. they might become even more entrenched in their positions as a defensive reaction. The practical wisdom here extends beyond just dealing with conceited people. It teaches us about effective communication and the importance of understanding our audience. Just as a wise person wouldn't continue whistling into a strong wind, we shouldn't waste energy trying to advise those who are fundamentally unreceptive to guidance. This connects to modern psychological concepts like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people with limited knowledge in a field are often the most confident in their abilities. Their conceit creates a barrier to learning. They don't know enough to recognize how much they don't know. Team quote 35.8. Familiarity is cruel to beauty, but kind to ugliness. Ouida, 1839 to 1908. Let me help you explore this insightful observation from Ouida, the pen name of Maria Louise Reim, an English novelist known for her complex romantic fiction and keen observations of human nature. To understand this quote fully, we need to first consider what familiarity does to our perception. When we first encounter something, our brain pays careful attention to every detail. Over time, however, repeated exposure changes how we process what we see. This psychological phenomenon is called perceptual adaptation or neural adaptation, where our brains begin to filter out familiar stimuli to conserve mental energy. Now, let's examine how this affects our perception of beauty and ugliness differently. When we first encounter something beautiful, we're struck by all its perfect elements working in harmony. Think of walking into a magnificent cathedral for the first time. The soaring arches, the play of light through stained glass, the intricate stonework all combine to take our breath away. But visit that same cathedral every day, and gradually those details fade into the background. The exceptional becomes ordinary through repeated exposure. Conversely, when we first encounter something ugly or imperfect, we're immediately aware of its flaws. But as we become familiar with it, something interesting happens. Our brain begins to filter out these imperfections. We might even start to find charm in the very features we initially found unappealing. Consider an old, asymmetrical building with weathered walls. What first appears as decay might eventually be seen as character. This principle extends beyond physical appearances. In relationships, for instance, we might initially be captivated by someone's striking features or charming mannerisms. Over time, these exceptional qualities can become mundane through familiarity. Yet someone whose appearance or personality initially struck us as unremarkable might grow more appealing as we discover subtle qualities that reveal themselves only through extended acquaintance. The quote also reflects a deeper truth about human perception. We tend to take beautiful things for granted while developing appreciation for the imperfect. This relates to what psychologists call the mere exposure effect, where repeated exposure to something tends to increase our liking for it, but this effect works more strongly on things we initially found neutral or slightly negative rather than those we immediately loved. In art and architecture, this principle is sometimes deliberately employed. Japanese wabi-sabi aesthetics, for instance, celebrates the beauty of imperfection and age, recognizing that flaws can become endearing over time. Similarly, many modern architects design buildings that reveal their beauty gradually rather than all at once, understanding that immediate beauty might not sustain interest over years of daily exposure. And if you'd like to help raise school test scores and self-confidence, you can give your kids free Easy Extra Advantage Math, Spelling, and Reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free Easy Alpha Cypher coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this Cypher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or Just for Fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal, antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby teas that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence, sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think, therefore I think teas I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.